When you report in Crosscare, it searches your entire live database every single time you run a report. But one thing to remember is that historical data doesn't change. So if we were looking for activity data, for example, for last year, that isn't going to change now. And we can report on it once, output the data, and analyse it outside of Crosscare, saving us a whole pile of time later on when we want to do analysis. So in order to do something like that, let's specify a new filter. Get any type of patient. Now we don't really have a code to hook into for this, so we are going to have to do it longhand. And I'm going to go to clinical history, choose the general section and say get anything with a date up to the start, the first day of this year. I don't want anything else. I just want all my clinical data up to the start of this year. What I then output from the clinical history, from the general section, is the date it happened, the service it was done by, who saw them, where they saw them, the encounter type, and the clinician role. And that's what I'm going to output. And the system will now do a huge trawl through your database, getting all the clinical entries for that time period. But the important thing is you only have to do it once. Obviously, this will take time going through your entire database. And you may need to leave it overnight. But as I've said, you only need to do it once. And eventually we get our data. At this point, hit the printer button, choose export, hit OK. And Crosscare will export all that data out of Crosscare for you and launch Excel. Once you're in Excel, you can do anything you want with it. So we get our patient names, we get our dates of birth, we get the date of the entry, we get the service, the seen by, the where seen, and further over here we get the encounter type and the clinician role. So the sort of thing you would do here, firstly, I'd go File, Save As, and file my spreadsheet, say, on my desktop. So I can call it Historical Data. But now I can select all the data and I can do things like insert a pivot table. And once I'm into building my pivot table, I could say, for example, I want to filter on service. I want to have rows of the encounter type and I want a count of patients in my values box. And then I can immediately see that for all services, I've done 26,505 encounters. But because I'm in Excel, this works really quickly. So I could now say I want just home care and outpatients. And I get instant changes in my data. So they're my numbers for that service. If I go back to just daycare, instant answers. I'm not having to run a report again to see everything to do with a particular type. And if I want to know what one of them is, I can just double click on it and it will take me to that data in a new worksheet. So back to my, now I can change this around. If I want to see where people have been seen, I can put encounter type back, bring where seen down, and again, instant results on my data. And each time, I'm not having to run a Crosscare report every single time. I can save my spreadsheet, and from then on, I can literally just come back to my desktop, run Excel, open historical data, and carry on reporting as I want to, without having to run any further reports, because this historical data isn't going to change anymore.